Okay, so I have one article for you today, but boy, is it a doozy. Now, this is a secondhand article. I didn't get this reporting from Politico, even though this first appeared in Politico. Because apparently, this article from The Advocate contains other reporting from other sources like the New York Times. So, anyway, leaked chats reveal young Republicans peddling racism, fascism, and Hitler worship in bombshell Politico report. Now, I already have an update to this. It is just those people in the chat, the leadership of the young Republicans that did this. There are plenty of young Republicans who are like, dude, resign. You don't speak for us. Go away. So that's a good sign. But anyway, let's get to the article. This is from yesterday, so of course the update won't be included. All right. They've long decried the left's habit of labeling Republicans fascists because they act fascist. Obviously not all Republicans, but the MAGA Republicans, most definitely. They have warned, scolded, and complained. You can't throw that accusation around lightly. And we don't. It cheapens language, they say. True. And granted, when people threw those words around before it was actually happening, absolutely. But, if you don't want to be called a fascist or a Nazi, then stop doing fascist or Nazi shit. It's really, really simple. But now, leaked private messages among rising GOP leaders obtained by Politico reveal that their extremism is not just rhetorical. It lives, breathes, and laughs behind closed doors. Politics has always had its hidden rooms, corridors where whispers echo louder than public statements. Over the past decade, those corridors have multiplied, especially within the modern GOP, from private messaging groups to semi-secret affinity circles like the A-gays. I don't even want to know. The assembled influence networks of out-gay men within Trump's Republican orbit. Ugh. Of course, something associated with Trump would be called A. Because, everything he touches, everything that he brands has to be the best. He's a narcissist, so he doesn't know how to be humble. He has to market everything like it's the best and greatest thing that's ever happened in whatever group, because he's just incapable of accepting that, it's okay not to have the best and the brightest. Average Joes can do wonderful things. But anyway. Now, though, one of the most disturbing rooms has been laid bare. An expose published by Politico on Tuesday reveals thousands of messages exchanged by rising young Republican operatives, calling opponents monkeys. I'll give you one guess. Which group of people, which opponents were being called monkeys? Celebrating gas chambers. I mean, come on. Who the hell celebrates gas chambers? And flirting with rape fantasies. People have accused women of having rape fantasies. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's more about, how would you prevent rape if you were in that position, how to get away. But I'm going to say that these people are not doing that. All behind the veil of encrypted chat. Well, apparently it's not encrypted anymore. The Restoyer War Room. And Restoyer is spelled Restoryr. All one word. War Room. And all caps. Because, we're Trump acolytes. We can't spell and we have to shout. The Restoyer War Room chat, spanning more than 2,900 pages, some 28,000 plus messages, included state YR leaders from New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Among the participants, according to Politico, were William Hendricks, vice chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, Bobby Walker, vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans, and Peter Guinta, then chair of New York's Young Republicans, who also works as chief of staff to a state assembly member. And like I said, a lot of the Young Republicans have seen this chat and said, nope, we want you to resign. So whether it's because they got caught or whether most young Republicans are like, what the holy hell are you doing? So it could go either way. The optimist in me would like to believe that it's because these people don't actually believe this crap. That it's just the leadership that are toxic. In those texts, they did more than scheme electoral strategy. They spoke freely of putting voters in gas chambers. I can just imagine which voters. Gaslighted dissenters and praised Hitler. Because, nothing bad could come out of engaging with someone praising Hitler. Yeah, that always works. Guinta wrote, everyone who votes no is going to the gas chamber. Great, I love Hitler. In response, Joe Maligno, the general counsel for the New York Young Republicans, quipped, can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. What? Is this some sort of weird Holocaust denial, but yet not? How does that work? What do you mean it doesn't fit the Hitler aesthetic? That was Hitler! What the hell? New York National Committee woman Annie Katie replied, I'm ready to watch people burn now. Oh my God. This is so disgusting. I don't feel well. The shock of the content is magnified by who is behind it. Are we sure about that? Though these are not fringe extremists lost in anonymity. These are young Republicans already embedded in party structures, some holding public roles or career staff positions. I'm sorry, have you paid attention to who's running the party right now? I mean, not everybody who is a part of the Nazi party agreed with the gas chambers either. That didn't make them any less Nazi. And maybe they were just too afraid to speak out about, Oskar Schindler, you've heard of Schindler's List. He was literally a member of the Nazi party. So it's not like there were no members of the Nazi party who were like, yeah, maybe we went a little too far on the Jew thing. But I'm sure quite a few did. Because that's what the Nazi party was founded on. So why are we surprised that this grotesque behavior has become mainstream. I mean, Democrats have been saying for years, Democrats, independents have been saying for years, mainstream Republicans, take your freaking party back because it's gone completely batshit. Granted, it's been batshit for a long, long time, it getting increasingly more batshit. But at least, it was still a fringe. This is no longer fringe. It hasn't been ever since Trump was elected. It stopped being fringe. Anyway, moving on. The casual sadism went hand in hand with racism and homophobia. Again, think about who's leading the party and how our Congress is acting, the Republican part, that is. In one July exchange, Walker wrote, "Stay in the closet, faggot." Yes, I'm going to say the word. Even though Politico noted he was often the main target of that same slur within the group. Okay, so maybe they just are using the word like a lot of kids do to use it as, the way they use gay, to mean stupid or whatever. Especially since he's been targeted with that slur. But, maybe it's the same way as there are some people, some white people, who seem to think that calling their group of people the N-word, even though there are no blacks in it, they just think that, they're being gangster or something. So maybe it's something like that's just, a cool thing to do. I do not know. I do not know what goes on through their brains, and I probably do not want to go in there. That would probably be a very scary place. Anyway. The group also mocked Asian and Latino people. Well, there's a shock. "My people built the train tracks with the Chinese," Walker wrote, referring to his Italian heritage. Okay, well, I guess technically true. But I thought the Italians were considered lesser than at a different stage than that. But then again, that's why Columbus Day was named, because we had to show that we don't think Italians suck, so. Anyway. "Let his people go," Maligno shot back. "Keep the chinks, though." Yeah. This is going to be a very, very painful video. I'm so glad it's not monetized, because I would get demonetized so fast with this video. Oh my God. Yikes. In another conversation, Luke Mosselman, chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, wrote, "The Spanish came to America and had sex with every single woman." There were men who thought that the women were there for their pleasure. Absolutely. Did they have sex with every woman? No. And did every man do that? No, not all men were like that. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt that that's how venereal disease managed to end up within the white population, because they just couldn't keep it in their pants. "Sex is gay," replied Alex Dwyer, the Kansas Young Republicans chair. Really? Even heterosexual sex is gay? Um, I'm sorry, were these people being even remotely serious at all? Because some of this stuff just is just too stupid to be taken seriously. Sex? It was rape, Mosselman said. 100% correct. Epic, Walker responded. Okay, so we're pro-rape. Nice. At least someone called it out for what it is. So either they're all assholes, but just self-aware assholes, or some of them were self-aware assholes. I do not know. In part, this leak reflects a generational shift within the conservative movement. As public norms constrict, more of the raw ideology and cruelty move underground. The subterranean shift mirrors other internal fault lines. For instance, in recent months, conservative Washington has become aware of the A-gays, the gay men within Trump's orbit who quietly coordinate power across agencies and socialize in private Republican spaces, the New York Times reported. I assume Scott Bessent and Peter Thiel are part of the A-gays. That would be my guess. Though the A-gays claim a shared identity to give mutual support in otherwise hostile conservative spaces, their existence also highlights the duality of present Republican cohesion, what is public and what is hidden. In the young Republicans' leaked chat, the hidden became toxic. The eruption of public reaction has been swift. Politico reports that Hendricks was dismissed from his role in the Kansas Attorney General's office. Good. Walker lost a job offer. Several Republicans, including U.S. Representative Elise Stefanik and New York Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt, condemned the messages and demanded resignations. Wow. Even from Elise Stefanik, who's been basically sucking Trump's dick just to, get it within the cabinet. And I guess she's bitter. Guinta apologized, but also claimed the logs may have been doctored, accusing internal opponents of orchestrating a political hit. Yes, he took a page out of Trump. I didn't do it, but if I did, it was a hit job. Pick one. Jesus Christ, you morons. But isn't it wonderful when horrible people meet the consequences of their actions? Because what the hell? I mean, yes, it was an encrypted chat, but the thing is, encrypted shit can be unencrypted. Encrypted doesn't mean that you're safe forever. And yet the logs do more than embarrass individuals. They expose the ideological substrate, the cruelty, the racial animus, the fetishization of dominance that young leaders are entertaining behind the scenes. They serve as a dark mirror to the notion that Republican youth wings would necessarily be more palatable or moderate than their elders. Well, what can you expect when people like this worship people like Andrew Tate and others like him who seem to think that, that they're the alpha male and they know how to treat women, meaning like shit. And that's if they don't rape them, which, fun fact, Andrew Tate and his brother have been accused of that. And also slavery. Sexual slavery, but still slavery. So yeah. When a bunch of young men grow up being taught that this is the way men should act, how the hell can you be surprised when this shit comes up? But it is true that I find it annoying, and I actually called out one of the commenters on Nextdoor for this, pointing out, oh, you are old. I mean, it was old and bigoted, but I'm like, yeah, that, that's not a redundancy. There are old people who are very forward thinking, and then there are the regressives like this who are also young. So at a moment when public discourse is increasingly policed, when racial or anti-Semitic epithets are often decried, at least in public, this leak illustrates how such norms don't disappear. They move underground on encrypted apps in private channels. For LGBT plus watchers, the hypocrisy is glaring. These men boast of cruelty towards queer people, call rivals faggots, and celebrate rape, while likely associating with the same Republican networks that house the A-gays. Alright, so that is the end of that article. And, let's see, what else did I want to mention? See, this was a debate when Trump was drop kicked out of all these apps like Twitter and YouTube, because on the one hand, he doesn't have an audience. On the other hand, we know what's going on. And he can't go underground and become even more radicalized like he has. Because, let's face it, Trump 1.0 was quaint compared to what's happening now. So, yeah, exactly. On the one hand, you don't want to hear this crap. You think that these are horrible people. But pushing them out of the community isn't going to make them rethink their views and realize that they done fucked up. No, what's going to make them realize they done fucked up is if you call them out on it. The old adage that light is the best disinfectant. We hear these horrible views, so people in the back will realize that this is what they actually think. And when we do that, we can then mock them, make sure that they are nowhere near positions of authority. In some cases, not near the groups that they're railing against. Sure as hell nowhere near children. So yeah, that's been the debate. On the one hand, it would be great to get rid of the people who are desperate to use racial epithets, even if it's not directed towards a group. I actually did have a friend which I quickly defriended on Facebook because he literally said, and I'm quoting this, so I don't want to get hate comments for it, "Where all my niggas at?" Now, this is a very white man. The only thing that makes him a minority is that he is gay. Otherwise, he's very white. He should not be using that term. And I'm going to go... Now, the man is from Chicago. Well, Chicago Heights. So, it's possible he has black friends. And I'm not saying that there aren't black people who have a problem being called that. I had a friend who, she called her friends cracker, and her friend called her nigger. But they were fine with it. So it depends on situation. But to do it in a public forum like Facebook, that's asking for trouble. That's just asking for trouble, because not everybody appreciates that. So, yeah, there are people who are just don't seem to understand societal norms or refuse to accept societal norms. Now, should people be able to say the word? Absolutely. I truly believe that people should be allowed to say the word simply because then you know who the hell to avoid. I mean, I certainly wouldn't, like I said, I befriended this guy. And he seemed like a nice guy when I was living in Chicago Heights. I was friends with him and his then boyfriend. But then then I saw that, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, read the room. That's not how you talk. At least not in a public forum. Like I said, maybe you have some friends who are fine with using that language. But yeah, then there are settings to make sure that only those people see that. So yeah, not good. So yeah, you should be able to make the decision of, oh, this person just throws out this word without any difficulty. I don't want to be friends with this person. So yeah, people should be themselves and should be allowed to say these horrible things because then you know who to avoid. But on the other hand, unfortunately, we live in a society where if people are offended, then they immediately think that you shouldn't exist because you offend them. And it's like, well, there's nothing preventing you from being offended. You just need to grow thicker skin. But at the same time, there are certain things like calling people the N-word, calling the LGBT plus community the F word, which I guess they think that everyone in the community is gay. I mean, no. I mean, granted, these are not smart people, but still. So yeah. Yeah, not a fan of censoring those words. I do get the N word. I mean, as you can tell, I generally don't use it. Simply because of the fact that, well, some people might be okay with hearing the word, others will lose their damn minds. So, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that is the end of this article, and I think I covered everything I wanted to. So, with that, I will see you guys in the next video.